you know, either younger than us or, you know, passed and retired. So why not? You know, I want to challenge myself. The best always looking to fight the best and challenge themselves, you know, and why not, you know, challenge.
Terence Crawford can't beat him, right? This is a money grab for Terence Crawford. It's just a situation where Terence Crawford is trying to fill up his bank account opposed to actually his legacy.
But if you study Floyd closely, like I have, you will notice that he never wastes any steps while he's in the ring.
Terence Crawford has reportedly accepted Floyd Mayweather's fight offer, and he did it live on air with Stephen A. Smith. Crawford explained that for him, boxing has always been about testing limits and taking on the biggest challenges, no matter how tough they are. He emphasized that the best should always fight the best, and once again, he's ready to step up. With calm confidence, Crawford made it clear that facing Mayweather isn't just another fight. It's another chance to prove himself and push beyond every expectation.
Businessman, because this is Terence the businessman talking, right? They got to pay the cheddar to make it better, right?
For sure, for sure. All money ain't good money, so you gotta know that.
Okay, fair enough. I hate to use the word easy, but at times it did feel like you were, you know, having a really easy time out there. Were you expecting it to play out that way?
Listen, it's never easy, you know.
Stephen A. Smith has never been shy about speaking his mind, and when it comes to boxing, his words carry weight. So when he praises Terence Crawford for becoming a champion in 4 different weight divisions, it's more than just a compliment. It's recognition of a truly rare achievement in modern boxing. In today's era, where many fighters avoid moving up in weight due to the risks, Crawford's ability to dominate across 4 divisions puts him in a class of his own. Stephen A. points out that this kind of versatility and dominance cements Crawford's status as an all-time great pound-for-pound fighter. It showcases not just his physical adaptability, but also his technical brilliance, mental toughness, and relentless drive to challenge himself against increasingly tougher competition.
Terence Crawford is the best fighter on the planet. Pound for pound, he's that dude. In this 4-belt era, he is now the undisputed world champion 3 times over. 140 pounds, 147, now 168 pounds, claiming all the belts. You don't see people doing that very often. Going up against a guy who was perceived as being bigger and stronger, Crawford was strong. Crawford was strong enough to fend him off, strong enough to make him respect his own power. He used his jab, he used his distance. He had poise in the ring, he wasn't rattled. He backed up and moved when necessary and kept us different. He exchanged enough to gain respect when necessary. It was a brilliant, brilliant, masterful fight on Terence Crawford's part.
The idea of Terence Crawford stepping into the ring with Floyd Mayweather, even in an exhibition, has sparked intense debate across the boxing world. Critics argue that such a fight could undermine Crawford's carefully built legacy. They point out that instead of adding to his historic victories, like dismantling Errol Spence Jr. and outclassing Canelo Alvarez, Crawford would risk being seen as chasing financial rewards rather than competitive greatness. This concern comes largely from Mayweather's own recent career, which has been defined by lucrative exhibitions rather than legacy-defining bouts. For some analysts, Crawford has worked too hard to jeopardize being remembered in the same light. But on the other side of the argument, many believe Crawford's legacy is already secure. As a 4-division world champion and one of the most dominant pound-for-pound fighters of his era, his place in history is cemented. From that perspective, a clash with Mayweather would not tarnish his achievements. Instead, it could add another fascinating chapter to his story. A spectacle that blends competition, legacy, and entertainment in a way only boxing can deliver.
As Canelo Alvarez has been a great fighter his whole career, people like Erislandy Lara gave you the blueprint on how to beat him. People like Floyd Mayweather also gave you the blueprint on how to beat him. But Bud is more fierce, more fearsome, and more angrier, and more meaner than both of those guys. So you know if they showed you the blueprint, Bud gonna go out there and take that blueprint and do even more with it, which is what Bud did. So it was never a question in my mind whether Bud really was going to outbox me. It's just if he could take the punch. And right away he showed, bam, he could take the punch. So I knew from that point, if he just slow him down, which he did, he'd be okay. Then late in the fight, what other people still didn't see, late in the fight, Bud started hitting Canelo's body. One of those body shots, I think by the 7th or 8th round, hurt Canelo. I was like, whoa. Bud hit him in the right spot then. He got Canelo's respect with that too. So Bud fought a very, very awesome fight, fought a beautiful fight, very tactical.
Very controlled.
Yes, it was a beautiful fight for boxing.
It was a beautiful fight. You know, Bud got hit with some shots.
He did. He did.
He got hit with some single shots going out. You know, he's going out, and you know Canelo, if he has you trapped in the corner or along the ropes, it's typically 1 to 2 big shots. You know that if you've watched him.
Yep.
So you could tell Crawford, as he was going out, he knew the one shot was coming, and several times it landed. He even got hit with a 2-piece. I don't remember what round it was, uppercut right hand that Crawford took well. So when you started seeing him absorb the shots, if you're Team Crawford, you don't want him to take that shot. But if you started seeing that, now you know that, okay. And I think that's what gave Crawford the green light to stay there a little bit longer.
He smiled about it.
He smiled about it.
Yeah.
And sometimes that smile can be a lie, and sometimes that smile can mean what I think it meant for Crawford, which is, oh, that's not as bad as I thought it was.
When fans compare the careers of Floyd Mayweather and Terence Crawford, the conversation becomes far more complex than just numbers on a record. Floyd's resume is filled with wins over some of the biggest names in boxing history, but critics often highlight the timing of those victories, pointing out that Canelo Alvarez was still young and inexperienced when he faced Mayweather, while Manny Pacquiao entered their long-awaited 2015 fight carrying an injury. On top of that, Mayweather's unwillingness to grant certain rematches, especially against Pacquiao, left lingering questions for many fans. Crawford's case looks different. His dominance has consistently come against opponents viewed as being in their prime. He dismantled Errol Spence Jr. when Spence was considered one of the most dangerous fighters alive, and outclassed Canelo when the Mexican star was still at the peak of his powers. That contrast fuels endless debates. Was Mayweather's unbeaten perfection purely the result of unmatched skill, or was it also shaped by calculated matchmaking and timing? And does Crawford's willingness to face the best, at their best, put him on a path to surpass even Mayweather's legacy?
For Terence Crawford, it's just a situation where Terence Crawford is trying to fill up his bank account opposed to actually his legacy. This is what was being said, right? This is what people perceived. Terence Crawford was just attempting to cash out.
Tony Jeff, one of boxing's respected analysts, has pointed out that Floyd Mayweather's greatest weapon wasn't just his lightning-fast defense or razor-sharp counters, it was his mindset. According to Jeff, Floyd carried an unshakable belief that he could beat anyone, and that mental edge separated him from the rest. Even in matchups where the odds looked close, Mayweather's supreme boxing IQ, his ability to read opponents instantly, and his calmness under pressure always tilted the fight in his favor. This psychological edge, combined with flawless technical execution, made him appear almost untouchable. While other fighters leaned heavily on physical attributes, Floyd's brilliance came from controlling every detail, every exchange, and every round. That's why, in Jeff's view, Mayweather wasn't just a defensive genius. He was a complete strategist who retired with an unblemished record and an aura of near invincibility.
Mayweather's still greater than Terence Crawford. We need to really talk about this now. A lot of you guys are putting Crawford a bit too high. If you want to say Crawford could beat Floyd, I'm more open to that conversation, but when you're lining up the careers, I'm going to say Floyd every time. While they're both 5 division, Bud has become 3-time undisputed, but he's only fought 10 world champions to Floyd's 25 world champions. You can't take away the 5 division, 3-time undisputed. In terms of accolades, yeah, he probably gets the nod over Floyd. I say their accolades are about relative, considering Floyd Mayweather won Fighter of the Decade as well. But when you get to the resumes, Pacquiao, Oscar, Canelo, Cotto, Mosley, Castillo, Marquez, Zab, Gotti, Hatton, and Corley. There's probably way more people that this guy just didn't name. And then when you get to Bud's resume, not saying it's just bad, but the only names that's really worth mentioning is going to be Spence and Canelo. It's not a knock on Bud. Bud was not able to make those fights early on in his career. But I got to tell you guys what it is. Bud's resume just doesn't line up with Floyd's. Take their top 20 wins. Bud don't even got 20 wins to really sit here and name. Floyd got a good 20-something plus. Bud probably got about 10 wins that we could really sit here and name. Floyd's still greater than Bud in my opinion.
The boxing world is buzzing with speculation, and one of the most intriguing matchups being discussed is Terence Crawford versus David Benavidez. Benavidez brings serious advantages to the table: size, power, and a relentless style that overwhelms opponents. For Crawford, a fight like this would be uncharted territory, pushing him into a challenge unlike anything he has faced before. While no official announcement has been made, the conversation itself speaks volumes. Fans aren't just craving exhibition spectacles or money-driven events, they want high-risk, legacy-defining fights. And Crawford versus Benavidez would deliver exactly that. Skill versus size, precision versus pressure. A true clash of styles that has the potential to be one of the most compelling fights of this era.
Strong mindset, they're really confident, they really believe in themselves, but you need more than that mindset. You need to have the full package of everything that I'm talking about, what Floyd has got.
Fighters should only want to get better. The more you win, the more you should work harder. If you think about losing, you're going to lose. All I ever thought about was winning. So that's all I know.
Floyd would visualize his success before he even stepped into the ring. There was no alternative to him but winning. And this mindset isn't just for boxing, it's for all walks of life. And I've actually done a full video talking about how I used this mindset of visualization to win my Olympic medal. And it was an absolute game changer. Now, Floyd used to use this mindset to ease the pressure that he put himself under. And he made himself think like, I'm not under any pressure right now, where he was under immense pressure.
Pressure either makes you or break you. Well, you see where I'm at, so it's obvious that I'm the type of athlete or I'm the type of entertainer that can deal with pressure. There's never no pressure.
Now, if you watch his fight in 2013, when he fought Canelo Alvarez, Canelo came in a young, strong, undefeated fighter, but by round 2, Floyd kind of had him figured out. He was reading Canelo's jab. He would slip outside and then come back with a clean counter punch, then move his feet and get out of the way. He basically had the full fight under control, and he was controlling the full rhythm of the fight. He was forcing Canelo to fight at his pace, and this is what he would do in all of his fights. He would get his opponent to do what he wanted them to do without their opponent even realizing it, which is what we call boxing IQ. Now, even though I'm not a fan of Floyd Mayweather personally, because of the time when I did meet him, what he said to me made me just feel like this guy is a piece of...
When comparing Floyd Mayweather and Terence Crawford is one of those debates that will probably never have a definitive answer. Both men fought the best available in their eras, and both emerged dominant. For Mayweather, his perfect record, unmatched defensive brilliance, and ability to neutralize elite opponents made him the standard of his generation. For Crawford, it's his willingness to climb through weight classes, take on new challenges, and still dominate that sets him apart. The truth is, their careers unfolded under very different circumstances, making a direct comparison nearly impossible. But maybe the point isn't to crown one over the other. Instead, it's to recognize that both embody the highest standards of boxing: discipline, mastery, and greatness that inspire generations of fighters to come.
Not me, but shocked the world. This past Saturday, Mexican Independence Day weekend, what he took on defeated another first ballot Hall of Famer, but he essentially jumped up 3 weight classes, technically 2, from 154 to 168, but only had one fight at 154 last August against Israel Madrimov. Terence Crawford defeated Saul Canelo Alvarez, who is a 4-division champion, 2-time undisputed super middleweight, and the reigning, at the time, super middleweight world champion, undisputed world champion. And Terence Crawford beat him handily and convincingly. And because he beat him so easily, now the 63 win, 3 loss, 2 draw, 39 win by way of knockout, biggest threat has been now imposed on Terence Bud Crawford, and that's the Mexican Ecuadorian monster, David Benavidez, who is a 2-division undefeated world champion, is the 2-time WBC super middleweight and reigning WBC light heavyweight, 175-pound champion, who has a record of 30 wins, no loss, no draw, 24 wins by way of knockout. He stands 6'2" with a 75-inch arm. This is a fight that David Benavidez has been calling for Canelo Alvarez when he was at 168, and Canelo Alvarez strategically maneuvered around him. But Canelo Alvarez is 5'7", with a 70-inch arm reach, started his career at 140 47 pounds, made his real name at 154 pounds. He's not a big guy, okay? And styles make fights. Benavidez is 6'2" with a 75-inch arm reach. His last fight at 168 against Demetrius Andrade, he rehydrated to 193. So he's a big guy. Canelo Alvarez probably rehydrate to 182, maybe 185 max, right? He's not a big guy, right?
Greg Hackett's words about Crawford's win over Canelo capture the true symbolism of that moment. By calling Canelo the best in boxing, Hackett reminded everyone just how dominant and feared Canelo had been for more than a decade. But Crawford didn't just fight him, he took control, dismantled him, and in doing so, shifted the balance of power. In Hackett's view, Crawford has now become the predator in the waters, the fighter everyone fears, the one sitting at the very top of the sport. This victory wasn't just another line on his resume, it redefined the entire boxing landscape. Crawford didn't just beat the shark, he became the hunter himself.
Oh my goodness, I said that was gonna happen. If Crawford was to win, we're gonna be seeing a lot of these debates on whether or not Floyd Mayweather or Terence Crawford is gonna be better. Now this is gonna be a debate for a long time. I'm talking about one of those debates like LeBron versus MJ, Messi versus Ronaldo. It's one of those. And the thing is, I can get behind it. Let me go ahead and say this. When it comes to resume, I do think we give Floyd Mayweather the edge. I mean, he beat a bunch of champions. He reigned for a long time. While Crawford, his resume is heavily criticized, and he's just not getting, his kind of respect for beating Errol Spence and Canelo Alvarez. But if we're talking strictly off of skills, this is where things get really tough to talk about. I think a fair assessment of this matchup would be Floyd Mayweather wins from 135 and 140, while Crawford wins from 147 to 154. And I say that because I feel like Floyd's style changed once he got to welterweight. He became a more defensive fighter, and he just wasn't as much focused on offense. And knowing this, I feel like Crawford would have had a much better chance of handling him. And we all know, Crawford was an absolute monster at welterweight. But hey, man, like I said, this is going to be a debate for a very long time. I can't wait to hear all the talk about it. But I'm curious on your thoughts. Who you think wins in the fight, Floyd or Terence Crawford? Let's talk about it, and follow me for more boxing talk.
Crawford's victory over Canelo Alvarez was the defining moment of his career, the win that erased any lingering doubts. His dismantling of Errol Spence had already silenced critics, proving he could dominate elite competition from start to finish. But when Crawford stepped in with Canelo, a fighter long seen as nearly untouchable, and took him apart, it was different. It wasn't just a win, it was a statement. Analysts now agree, these back-to-back triumphs elevated Crawford into the rare air of boxing immortality. He's not just a multi-division champion. He's the fighter who outclassed legends in their prime, proving his dominance beyond debate. With Canelo and Spence behind him, Crawford's legacy isn't in question anymore. It's cemented.
Because you got to remember, Canelo is the guy right now in the sport that's supposed to be the man, big bad wolf. You beat him, you the wolf. Now it's like, you know what I mean? Like, all right, who else I'm gonna fight? You beat the shark, you beat the wolf. Right. Damn. Like, you know what I mean? Ain't no more ops out there. It's ops out there, but who gonna make them really want to get up? That's the
shit gotta make sense. Like you said, you beat a shark and then you beat a wolf.
Yeah.
But there's the monster.
Yeah, there is, but that's like a real monster.
Bro, that's to me it don't make sense, but that's
really
what,
a monster.
Yo, is that proof? All right, we got the legendary Pape in the building. Legend. But what makes sense? Like, what makes the most sense? I know you said get a line of suits, Brooks Brothers.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Your line of suits get your money. Yeah, go ahead and get the easy money. You ain't gotta sweat no more.
What's up?
Not saying you ain't gotta work, you ain't gotta sweat.
What's happening?
He's paved the career where he could sit down at a table and get this money. He could come out with a Terence Crawford series now, just doing whatever he like to do. People gonna watch it. Nobody, the fighting part, people don't understand what it's like to be a fighter. A lot of times fighters really don't be interested in certain fights. It's cause when a guy see himself up here and is fighting a guy down here, it don't interest him. So therefore, when he train, he not gonna really train. He gonna train, but he not gonna train. He not gonna listen. he gonna feel like his coach taking it too serious, and he's like, man, this ain't even that.
And that's it for today's video, fight fans. Stay tuned, and until next time, keep it locked here for more fight news and breakdowns.